Well, we have a special guest here today. It's Jim Gilchrist, the play-by-play voice of the Kingston Frontenacs. And this past weekend was a big milestone for you, Jim, calling your 3,000th OHL game. Now that that day has passed, has it kind of sunk in at all for you yet?
Well, I've been doing a lot of these, kind of on the other end of these here that we're usually doing, eh? But yeah, it's been crazy the last few days, but glad it's over in a way. Glad to get away from all that hype and everything else. So let's get back to the important part about guys playing the hockey and the two teams here. But it was a great ceremony there. Very thankful to the Frontenacs for the ceremony there before the game, and all my family were there. My wife and three daughters, so meant a lot to them, and it meant a lot to me there. And while I've got a moment, Mike, I would really like to thank the Barrie Colts. Very classy organization and a classy move there. I received a card, a congratulatory card, signed by the guys and management of the team and all the players. So I thought that was a very classy move and something I'll always remember. So just wanted to get that out there to thank everyone with the Colts. It was a very classy move.
Yeah, and when I was watching the tribute and the ceremony with you at center ice, in the back of my mind as a broadcaster, I'm thinking, okay, so you're going to be dropping the puck, you're going to be doing this moment, then you got to get up to the booth. So how was that?
Yeah, that's what we kind of set ahead of time with the guys from the team who were organizing the whole thing. I said, "You realize I've got to get back up there for the puck drop. I have nothing worse than 3,000th game, and I'm going to miss the puck drop." But they said, "Well, right after the ceremonies, and my family could leave the ice, and the national anthem singer come out and do his thing." So while he was doing that, I was rushing up in the elevator up to the booth. Got up there just in time, just as the last few notes of the anthem were sung, and so we made it in time.
Oh, that's awesome. And for you, family's a big deal for you. So, looking at your career, for myself, I've got a young family. So when I do the games, I'm thinking about how's this affecting my family schedule. But for you, you've been out doing this for quite a few years. So what's that dynamic been like for your family as a broadcaster?
Yeah, it's been ironically enough, we've been married 44 years as of this past September, and this is my 44th year doing the games. But there's a lot inside there. I had a 7 year hiatus where I was doing more news at the station, so I had to take time off from doing the games from '94 to 2001, and have been back here ever since. But no, it was just amazing the job that my wife has done raising our three daughters because all were born during hockey season. So needless to say, I missed a lot of birthdays and other special days for them, but had great support from them right from day one.
And I understand at one of your broadcasts, you actually received a note that your wife was going into labor.
Yeah, this was, and ironically enough, here's another note that the last time the Kingston Canadians, as we were known then, played the Brantford Alexanders at the Brantford Civic Center there was, I can give you the exact date, November 13th, 1983, the night my second daughter was born. And I had a little note. Ironically, it was just on a little card that they wrote the three stars on. This was before cell phones, of course, and everything. So it on a wife on the way to the hospital, everything okay. So on the way back home, the bus took me right to the hospital instead of going to the rink with the rest of the guys. Dropped me off, but I missed by a couple hours. When I walked in the room, my father-in-law was standing in the corner, and all I could see was the top of her head at that time. And we didn't know what it was going to be, so I was introduced to our second daughter, Sheena. So it was just missed her by a couple hours, but I was there for the other two.
Oh my. Yeah, just the life of a broadcaster. You're always on the road and for looking back, because a lot of people think of Jim Gilchrist, the play-by-play voice for Kingston, but you actually got your start with the Oshawa General. So, that must have
Yeah,
been quite the transition going from Oshawa to Kingston.
yeah, it was a big move, and here again, a big move for my wife. I have to give her credit for doing this. A few of our close friends and parents thought we were crazy making a move 2 hours down the 401 from Oshawa down to Kingston at the time, but it was something I was pretty confident that I could do and that we could do later on as a family. Wife at that time was pregnant with our first child, so it was a huge move for her. I started in '72 there in Oshawa with the Generals. Rick Middleton went on to become a famous Boston Bruin mostly. He was in his last year there with the Generals, and that was my first year. I'd started at the radio station there part time in 1969 when I was still in high school. And then by the time that I got out of high school, it was there was a full time slot open there as assistant sports director, so I took that. then it just came open later on that year too with the thing with the Generals, and that was it until 1980. And Max Jackson, who was a legend down here in Kingston, the voice of the Canadians at that time, met me the night before the draft, which was always held in person, everybody, at the North York Centennial Arena there in Toronto, 10:30 on a Saturday morning. But the night before was the award ceremony at a hotel in Toronto. And Max had mentioned to me that he was retiring as voice of the Canadians and eventually as sports director of the station because his wife was quite ill at that time, unfortunately, with cancer. So he wanted to stay home more. So he suggested I send a tape down to the management in Kingston. So I did eventually, not right away, but did eventually, and came down for an interview the next day, and then got the job. Found out I got the next job the next day after that. So that's how it all started here.
So being coming from Oshawa, then you're a little familiar with life in Kingston, having faced the Frontenacs or the Canadians at the time quite a bit.
Yeah, that was I knew a handful of people from being down here a few times with the Generals, but my wife, unfortunately, at the time knew absolutely no one. But it was a community where very friendly, and everybody really took us in well. I really had to credit Jim Morrison, who was coaching GM at the time. He just celebrated his 92nd birthday here a couple of weeks ago. He and his wife really took us in and really welcomed us to the city. And same with everybody at the station at that time. Wayne Matthews, a well-known morning personality here at that time, and still was until a few years ago when he retired. That he said, "Once I spend a summer here, I'll never want to leave." Well, here we are. We're still here.
and
It's great here in
and
the
with you
summer. You
doing
gotta make it down here, Mike.
and with you doing the
Beautiful.
3,000 games, you've been to all the barns in the Ontario Hockey League, and usually the broadcasters I talk to, they always talk about the old Windsor Arena, the Sioux Gardens, and then the old Kingston Civic Center. So you must have some great stories about some of the older barns that have hosted games in the past in the Ontario Hockey League.
Oh yeah, a lot from our own building right here, the old Memorial Center, which is still a great building. Queens Golden Gales play out of there, the hockey teams, men's and women's. So they really take care of it now. But it had seen its day. It was time for a new venture down here with our new Leon Center down here now, as it's called. But yeah, we've had some great times in some of the old barns around here. Some of them right here. The broadcast booth at that time was right over top of the Kingston bench at the time, and the visiting broadcasters loved it. It was right at center ice, and you were pretty well right on top of all the action. But sometimes we had a mic hanging down from our spot, which was right directly up above the Kingston bench, and we had a live mic hanging down there just to get the crowd noise. But when Larry Mavity, good old Mav, a great friend of ours, unfortunately just passed away here 3 years ago, when he was coaching, we had to raise that mic because we got some real colorful comments coming out from the bench area that time.
It just adds to the broadcast.
Exactly. Yeah. But a few were kind of going over. And at that time, I guess a few didn't take too kindly to it. So we had to get that out of there.
And what's really cool is just being behind the scenes with the broadcast and getting to see all the other broadcasters in the OHL. It's just the friendships that are developed behind the scenes. I know when Kingston played Barrie a couple of years ago in the playoffs, I'd come into the media room and you and Gene are just swapping stories. It just seems like you guys could talk forever. But talk a bit about
Yeah.
just the friendships with the other play-by-play guys or broadcasters over your time.
Yeah, I like to think of us as one big happy family. There was a dedication reel going on during the game from different guys. Starting off with the first color commentator I had when I was here in 1980. He was a part-time Queen's student at the time, and he's pretty done well for himself here. Chris Cuthbert was my first color commentator here, so he's done some bigger and better things. So he, along with a lot of the other broadcast guys and around the loop, had some dedication videos that they ran here during the scoreboard, and I'm getting copies of those here for my own personal use. So it was great to see that. And as I mentioned at the time in my speech, I think we're just one big family. We're really great friends along the way. And that's the part of all of this that I've been part of two big industries, radio and hockey. And boy, when you combine the two, I've had the best of both worlds there because it's fantastic people in both.
And has Chris Cuthbert asked if you could do color for him at the National Hockey League level?
No, he wasn't that desperate. I don't think so. He was, but he is a great guy. I knew him before he and his wife even were married down here in Kingston. So it's great to see him have the success that he's had. He's a very hard worker.
And I just get the sense that you just love the game of hockey. You love the broadcast side of things. So, is that something that keeps you going? I know that you're past the 3,000 mark.
Yeah, I've always loved the game, as I said in the speech there as well. Love the game and love the city here, and love the people that not only just in the Frontenacs organization but around the league here as well. And that's what keeps you going. Sure, some of those bus rides are a little long, and when you get back at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning after a long trip, and especially in January or February, and you're brushing snow and ice off your car, you're kind of wondering, what am I really doing this for? But no, it's as long as I'm healthy enough and keep her going. That's what I said to the guys here the other night. And they said, well, I don't think it's in any contract that we can get rid of you. So we've got to leave. We've got to wait until you would just actually leave. And so, so I guess it's until I feel like it or the health stands up, I'll be here.
Oh, that's exciting. And the Frontenacs, they're coming into Barrie Thursday night. And, this season, it seems like it's been a bit of a roller coaster for the Frontenacs. Slow start, you make the coaching change, but, they've won a few straight and looks like there's some momentum building with the Frontenacs.
Yeah, it's finally really started up here. It was unfortunate with the coaching change. You see that all the time. You can't fire 23 players, so you've got to get rid of the coach. It always starts there. Luca Caputi, great guy. Away from the game too, he was just a fantastic person. So it was sad to see a good friend like that be let go. But I think even he knew that something had to be done. Our general manager, Corey Cooper, it was a real tough decision for him, really tough. And he knew that something had to be done. And we can see that kind of spark in the guys, the reaction to a former pro coach and his organization and that professional experience that he has. And Troy Mann here coming from coached in Hershey of the American League and more recently just down the road here in Belleville with the Senators there. So that pro experience really showing, and it's really shown out on the ice in the last couple of games.
And also picking up Jakub Kromiak from the Sudbury Wolves. He played his first couple of games this past weekend. How's he fitting in?
He's been fantastic there on Saturday night here in our win against the Guelph Storm. He had a lot of good rushes, bringing it out of his own end. So I'm not sure if he's got that much free reign to start up ice like that a few times. There are some anxious moments when he's done that a few times, but you'd rather see that. It's better to kind of rein in a kid rather than to put some under him to get him going in a game. But he was flying all night long there, and he had a good game in his first game in a Frauds uniform against the Colts there on Friday night. So I expect kind of a spirited game. There was a little bit of a thing there at the end of the contest there on Friday night. So I think it's going to be a good rematch there on Thursday.
Well, it's going to be fun having the Frontenacs saddling Thursday night. And Jim, again, congrats on the milestone, and we'll see you Thursday night.
All right. Look forward to seeing you and my good friend Gino there. We'll probably kick around a few more stories before the game.
I look forward to it. So that was Jim Gilchrist, the play-by-play voice of the Kingston Frontenacs. And it's always great to catch up with another broadcaster from the Ontario Hockey League, and especially Jim, who's got that experience. Just amazing. 3,000 broadcasts, which is quite remarkable. So again, congratulations to Jim. And we look forward to seeing the Kingston Frontenacs in Barrie Thursday night. The game will be on Rogers TV. And it's a 7 o'clock puck drop. So Gene and I will have the call. We're looking forward to it. And let me know in the comments down below just your thoughts on the game coming up Thursday nights, or your favorite memories of Jim Gilchrist behind the microphone for the Kingston Frontenacs. So put those comments down below. Remember to hit like and subscribe as we continue our way through the 2023-24 OHL regular season. Have yourself a great day.